All right, and we're back for the final installment, part three of grade 11. We're going to pick up right where we left off. We're moving right on to A Thousand Splendid Suns. This is by Khaled Hosseini, who also wrote The Kite Runner. This also takes place in Kabul, Afghanistan, and it features two female protagonists, Layla and Miriam. They are separated by a decade in years, but it's during the rise of the Taliban and what that looks like in that town, in that city, in that era. A lot of violence, a lot of suppression of women. But the book is a beautiful book about their relationship and how it grows. They initially hate each other, but then learn to depend on one another and help one another in an environment where it's very patriarchal and they don't have a lot of options. A Thousand Splendid Suns. You will fall in love with the writing of this title. The next title you might have heard of already, Fight Club. It's also a very famous movie. But the original premise of the story by the author is about the main character who is a soap salesman who's so bored with his life that he decides to create this underground fight club for people to compete. I'm sure you've heard the tagline, "Don't talk about Fight Club," by Chuck Palahniuk. Take a look. Next up is My Sister's Keeper by Jodi Picoult. This is a challenging novel about two sisters. One sister is very sick and needs a lot of medical help and intervention. And the second sister is actually useful in the sense that she's able to help out the sister that's sick with different blood transfusions and medical assistance until the sister starts to be resentful of that being her purpose in life, to make sure the other stays alive. It's a very interesting novel about medical ethics and the lengths to which people will go to keep their loved ones alive. My Sister's Keeper by Jodi Picoult. Next up is Your Own Sylvia. This is a verse novel written by Stephanie Hemphill, the author. Stephanie Hemphill is an expert on Sylvia Plath's life and read all of her work and read all of her biography materials and nonfiction and put together poems in verse that profile Sylvia's descent. Sylvia committed suicide in the 1960s and was a very revered writer who had a very tragic life. But it really is a tribute to Sylvia Plath and her life's work by Stephanie Hemphill. The next title is Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale. This is a bizarre title. This takes place in a futuristic time where women are used only to produce babies. So there's women who are upper class who are married to the men in this community, but they don't actually have to give birth. The handmaids do that, and that is their only purpose. This is a futuristic dystopian title. Lots of feministic perspectives here on the status of women. Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale. These two titles are specifically for students in 11th grade that are taking AP language. Both of these are very interrelated. They're nonfiction. The first title by Studs Terkel, called Working, is a series of hundreds and hundreds of interviews looking at different types of jobs and the people that do them. It has interviews with grave diggers, studio heads, policemen, piano tuner. It interviews why people choose the professions that they do and what's unique and different about each of them. Great nonfiction title. Now, Nickel and Dimed by Barbara Ehrenreich is a fascinating look at the working poor. Barbara, the author, actually from 1998 to 2000, joined the ranks of the working poor as a waitress, a hotel housekeeper, a cleaning woman, a nurse's home health aide, and even worked at Walmart to see for herself how America's unskilled workers are able to survive on $6 or $7 an hour? And the answer is that they don't do it very well. So check this out. This is economics in motion, working and nickel and dimed. The next two titles are both for IB students in 11th grade. We have The Stranger by Albert Camus and Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. The first title, The Stranger, is not an uplifting title, but it's definitely a thought-provoking one. It focuses on the main character, Meursault, who lives in Algiers, France. He's very unfeeling, callous. He attends his mother's funeral and is just very unfeeling, and ends up on a beach later that same week and kills someone rather indifferently. He ends up on trial and in jail, but during the trial, the features of his testimony really just reveal that he's really on trial for his absolute lack of moral character. A lot of philosophy in this book, and it's a very widely read title by high schoolers all over the world. The Stranger by Albert Camus. Now, on the other hand, Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky is a better look at remorse. The main character is Raskolnikov, and he still is battling good versus evil personally, and he does end up murdering an old woman and immediately is overcome with guilt. He ends up committing to the crime, confessing, and going to prison, and determines in prison that a good life is only lived through some amount of suffering. It's one of the great books in world literature, and I pose that the two of these are bookends of one another. The Stranger by Albert Camus and Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. We have all these titles in the Albany High School Library. Please stop by and see us. We're happy to discuss any of the assignments. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for more book talks by way of YouTube. Thanks again.